In my role as news editor at Board Game Geek, I see a lot of games each year, reading those descriptions on BGG, often editing them as I go, and you see a lot of common things that recur year after year. You know you're going to see a certain number of zombie games, you'll see a certain number of trading in the Mediterranean games, number of games where the king dies and you are determining the successor to that king. Right, you see those things recur over and over again. Designers like to explore certain types of genres or categories or settings, and publishers focus on those. People like to play those. That's why people keep doing them. So Frank West has combined two sort of modern trends with Cats and Polyominoes. Yes, it's a 1 to 4 player game from the City of Games. That's Frank West's publishing house. Previous game of his, The City of Kings, was like this sprawling fantasy epic scale. Isle of Cats takes a very different approach, although it does have a little darkness to it in the setting, in that over 5 rounds you are trying to rescue as many cats as you can, and then the game ends, and presumably all the rest of the cats are killed. I don't think the rulebook specifically mentions that, but it's pretty clear that some terrible person is coming to the island and you must rescue as many as you can. Not only that, of course, you want to best everyone else. I guess to laugh at them that they did not rescue as many cats. I don't know. That sounds a little dark for me. You can just imagine a more happy ride where you want to make a cruise boat full of cats. So you're trying to populate it as well as you can. You can spin it however you like. Let's look at the gameplay. We'll start with a look at the family game of the Isle of Cats, where each player has their own ship. The ship has the same arrangement of rooms on each board, but a different arrangement of rats. And you will be trying to cover rats during the game in order not to lose points. You have some treasures. You have 5 rounds in which to play before this dark ship comes and gets their hands dirty with all the cats. You have a set of family lessons, and you will score points for these lessons at the end of the game, depending on how well you have achieved whatever the goal is on this side. Each player is dealt 3 cards at random. They choose 2 of them, they throw the other one away, and they keep these secret until the end of the game. You have a number of treasures in play, and each round you are going to draw 4 times as many cats as the number of players in the game. If you draw any rare treasures, you put those with the other collections of treasures. We got 6. There we go. We got 12. And all you do is in player order, starting with the player at the top here. So the red player, then the green, then the orange. You're going to draft one of the cats, place it on a ship. When your turn comes around again, you must draft another cat and touch it to the cat that was first in play. Of course, it's going to be a challenge, as I'm trying to do this somewhat at random without a real goal initially. So maybe I place this purple cat here. Now my turn comes around again. My neighbors take things. Maybe I take this one. I take this purple cat and I cover this purple treasure. If you cover a treasure map with a matching cat, then you get to take one of the treasures and place it somewhere on your board that is, again, adjacent to everything that is already here. If I want to fill in this space, I'm going to have to take one of the treasures because each of the cats takes up 5 or 6 spaces. It will not fit there. So I could do that because each room that is not completely covered at the end of the game cost me 5 points. Each board has 7 rooms on it in the same orientation. You've got this little front room here, which is only 4 spaces large. Another room, the central room, the captain's bedrooms on the side. You've got the stern of the ship here. And then you have this big space that goes around this area and will most likely be unfilled. At least I've never seen anyone complete a boat over 7 games. So maybe I take this treasure and fill in this spot. Maybe my turn comes back around again. I get to add this one in, so I get to nicely fill in this space completely. Start to cover rats over here. Assuming I get to take 4th tile out of here, I can put this one on, cover lots of rats, get this green treasure, and if this is still here, I can drop this in, or maybe here. Fill in that space. As soon as you don't want to take any cats, and there's reasons why you might not want to, you just pass, and people keep going until all the cats are gone, or everyone has passed. You then advance the round marker, you put out more cats, and you do this again over 5 rounds. And at the end of the game, you lose 1 point for each rat that's revealed. You lose 5 points for each room that is not completely covered. I've seen anywhere from 5 to 20 points be lost. You score each family of cats. A family consists of 3 cats that are the same color and that are all touching. So I have 3 purple cats here, which is worth 8 points. If I had another purple family over here, that would score separately. 1 cat on its own doesn't get you anything. And I will score for whatever my 2 lessons are. So maybe I'll have something like 10 points for no visible rats on my boat. So not only wouldn't I lose points because all of the rats are covered, I would get a bonus of 10 points here. 9 points for having exactly 5 orange cats. There is a wide variety of lessons for which you can score. And what you get at the beginning of the game, what you choose, will often determine what you want to do. In addition to trying to get families, trying to cover rats, trying to fill rooms, and so on. You've got these conflicting tensions that pull you in different directions. The family version of the Isle of Cats is fairly straightforward because all you do is you pick up cats and you put them on your boat. You are trying to get big families because that will score you points. You're trying to cover rats, although losing 1 point for a rat, not really a big deal. Losing 10 starts to become painful, but of course you're covering rats as you cover space and as you just put cats in your boat anyway. You want to fit things together as tightly as you can in order to not lose points for the rooms, because that can really take a big bite out of your score. The lesson cards give you some guidance or direction as to what you're trying to do, because often that can be 20 points if you complete those 2 lessons. You may or may not get that, and you may get that in the meantime anyway by putting families together. So you have to try not to get everything because that's probably not going to be possible. Other people are going to take the cats you want. Things just won't fit. It won't work out. I played the family game twice, both with 3 players. I had played the game previously, and I had fit everything together pretty well. The first game, the other 2 players ended up with slightly negative scores. Yes, they lost so much for having empty rooms. They did not have families. They did much better the second time we played, but I still beat them again. This game rewards experience because you can see things better. Or if you've just played lots of polyomino games, then you will see that. You will be able to flip cats around visually, mentally, and figure out where you want to put things and what order you want to take things in. It's just how it works over time as you get experience playing these types of games. When you play the full game or the regular game, there's a lot more being added to complicate things, but you still have the same fundamental goals. Make families of cats, cover rooms, cover rats, score points for lessons. But it's trickier how you're going to do that. So let's show those details. Here's the layout for the full game of the Isle of Cats, which looks nearly identical to the family side. All you do is you flip over the game board, and all that changes is what you're going to do in a round, that is the actions you are going to take, and what you are going to score for at the end of the game. You flip over the island board as well, and that shows 3 fish and 5 fish, because now you're not just grabbing all the cats you want, scooping them up as you walk around the island. Instead, you must catch them by spending fish and by using baskets. Each player starts with 1 basket. At the start of the round, you get 15 fish, and you are going to use those fish to catch cats. You put out 2 cats per player on one side of the island, 2 cats per player on the other side. If you draw a rare treasure, put that aside, and continue drawing until you get to the proper number. There you go, 6 on each side. So you see the cats that are available to you. Now you can't just go buy them. You are first going to draft cards. Each player gets a hand of 7 cards from the deck of 150. You choose 2 of these cards, put them in front of you, pass the rest to your neighbor, get 5 from your neighbor, choose 2 of those, and so on until you get 7 cards. But you probably don't want to keep all of them because you must pay for whatever you keep, paying the cost in the upper left-hand corner. And if you look through all these cards, you will see it has a cost of 18, which would be almost all of your fish, and you could not acquire any cats. So you probably want to look through, choose some cards to keep, others to throw away. You pay for whatever you keep, and then you continue with the round. After you draft cards, you're going to read lessons. So what this means is if you have any lessons in your hand, you are going to play them. If there are just lessons, you put them face down under your board, they will score points for you at the end of the game, depending on how well you have met the conditions shown on the card. If you have a public lesson, well, as you might guess, it becomes public, and everyone gets to see what it is, and they will try to score points from it at the end of the game. So some things are common to all people. 2 points per common treasure on your boat. Everyone starts with nothing. So right now, everyone starts evenly, and people can try to collect treasures in order to maximize their score. Or, perhaps ideally, you get this in the 4th or 5th round, and you have been collecting lots of treasure, and then you play this because you're going to score lots more points off of it than everyone else. If you are not going to, maybe you want to take that card and throw it away, so someone else can't play it in order to score more points than you off of it. Or 2 points per lesson card in front of you. Again, if you've been focusing on those, this is great for you. If not, throw it away. Here, a lot of the public lesson cards ask you to pick a color, and so you pick one of the 5 colors of cats, and now all players get 3 points per lonely cat of this color on their boat. A lonely cat being, in this case, a green cat that is touching no other green cats. It's not with any other members of its family. So normally you want to try to collect cat families so that they will score lots of points. In this case, you'll score points off of that particular color cat if it's by itself. Lots of different lessons available. After you play all those lessons, you are going to choose any number of green cards from your hand. These are the rescue cards. And the rescue cards depict both baskets, either a full basket or a half basket. And they have boots, which have speed on them. You sum the speed of all the cards you've played, 9 in this case, and whoever plays the highest speed will become first drafter for the round. In a tie, you keep the same order. You also have baskets, and for each basket, you can catch 1 cat. So here I have 1, 2, 3 baskets in addition to the basket here. So I can catch at most 4 cats, but of course I need the fish to catch them as well. So you put the baskets on the side. We're now going to start taking cats. Maybe I do something like this and hope to get another yellow cat here, but I have to pay 5 for that. I have to give up a basket. Other people draft cats, and then maybe next round I get to take this one. Now I covered this yellow here. I get to draft one of the common treasures, not the rare treasure, and put it somewhere. And again, maybe I want to fill this space so I can make sure that this cabin is complete. Or maybe I want to, instead of taking that, maybe I want to reach out with this so I can start to build up here or have more possibilities of what I'm going to build off of instead of being constricted to building only in this area. You're going to keep going until either you run out of fish, you run out of baskets, you have no interest in any of the cats there, you want to preserve your fish for future rounds, and once you do that, you take all the cats and you just put them aside. Assume they have run free on the island, although of course at the end of the 5th round they're all going to be killed, so that's a shame. You should have rescued them, but you didn't. You continue 5 rounds. Get 20 fish at the start of each round, put out cats, you're going to draft cards, put out lessons, rescue, continue, and then score similar to the family game, losing points for rats and rooms that are not complete, scoring for cat families, scoring for your personal lessons, scoring for your public lessons, everything that's out there. Each rare treasure you put on the board is worth 3 points. So that's good, except you can get them only in one particular way. I'll talk about that in a moment. And then you score for public lessons. Aside from the lessons that you play and the green cards that you play, the last part of a round is rare finds, where you're going to play these yellow and brownish cards that let you take treasures and add them to your boat, or draft an Oshax. There are 6 special Oshax cats. They cover 6 spaces with them. They have very interesting shapes. They are these fantasy colorless cats. And when you draft an Oshax, you put it somewhere on your boat, and then you designate a color for that cat. So I can put this here, I can put this on top, and now I've got 3 orange cats together. I can build off this in the future. So You want the Oshaks because they cover lots of space. A lot of the cards relate to them in different ways. You want these yellow cards because they are going to let you take more treasures to fill in gaps or draft rare treasures to earn points at the end. And the rare treasures all take up 4 spaces, so that covers lots of ground. Final type of card that you have are the anytime cards. And as you might guess, you play them at any time. So I can discard any 2 treasures to get a permanent basket. So now I will not need to spend as much on green cards in order to have baskets available to catch cats. Or maybe I discard that basket on the final turn to get 5 fish to let me grab the final cat I need. Here I can gain 2 fish for every Oshaks, which right now there's only 1, so I gain 2, but it costs 2 to get this, so it's a break even. So the values of the cards changes a lot, as you might expect in any drafting game. This one, you draw 3 cards, you pay for whatever you want to keep. Maybe they'll give you special ways to score points. Oh, 9 points if I have 5 blue cats. Or a public lesson that I will keep and then I'll play on a future turn. And now I can choose orange because I've got 3 orange cats. Maybe I'll score for this and no one else will. There's a quick overview of the full game of the Yalla Cats, which I played 3 times so far. Once with 2 players, twice with 4. Experience matters, as you might guess in any sort of drafting game, and as I mentioned with the family game, with fitting everything together, seeing what's coming up and sort of getting a piece of the flow of the game and how you are going to handle the fish coming in, the baskets coming in, what you have to draft, what you have to plan for, what you have to put together in order to maximize that score at the end. You get a sense of how many lesson cards you might get, what the public lessons might be, and you can plan and play better in subsequent games. In our first game of 4 players, 1 player, Steph Hodge, had played previously and she beat the rest of us. She had experience, she put it all together. Second game, Steph and I both had experience, and I won with the other 2 people being somewhat far behind. And then third player is just me and Steph. So it's experienced players going at it. And the nature of the game changes a lot with 2 players because, of course, hate drafting now matters. Where in a 4-player game, if I draw something, I'm trying to decide what to choose, and there's some lesson card that may benefit, the guy who's 2 players downwind of me in the draft. I could take it so that he doesn't score those points, but wouldn't it be better if I take something that's good for me? Usually, yes, and hopefully the next player will hate draft that card instead, right? Pass the onus on to them. But when you shift to the 2-player game, if I can steal points from you, that's as good as giving me points, and of course you're going to continue that. So what also changes between games with fewer players and more players is the number of lesson cards and just what you see. You will have many fewer cards that you see because you're only drafting cards back and forth in the 2-player game. With 4 players, you're going to see a wider variety, which gives you more things to come together. There's going to be more public lesson cards played, which gives you more goals to shoot for, and the scores will probably be higher just because there's more to score. There's more to do and more to take into consideration. Where the 2-player game is more streamlined, you're going to see many fewer cards, and maybe you don't even see the goals that you would hope to score for, just because not all of the cards will be dealt. We also had this weird situation, which comes up in drafting games sometimes, where, of course, cards vary a lot depending on when you get them. So in one of the games, Steph had a goal, I showed it when he had the example here, something like 18 points for having both captain's rooms empty. So if you get that card on the first turn, of course you can be like, great, I'm going to plan for this, I'm going to keep those rooms empty, and sure, I'll lose 10 points for having them empty, or not having them covered, and maybe there's rats in there and I might lose additional points, but I get 18 points for this lesson. Okay? So you sort of have this balance here where I'm going to get 8 points. I'm going to net 8 points for having these rooms empty. And I can plan for that from the first turn, building forward. If I get that in the 4th or 5th round, I've probably already played in there and it's just useless. And that happens a lot with many different things where goals become useless, certain cards become useless, discard treasures to get a permanent basket. And that's a terrible thing to get near the end of the game because I don't need the basket so much then. You want to recover that cost over time in order to make the most use of that basket possible. So the value changes a lot and it might feel unfair based on what you're going to draft, and them's the breaks. You just have to accept that at a drafting game. There's no provision for shuffling lessons at the beginning or making sure there's a certain number of lessons per each draft or anything like that. It's just going to be a random assortment of cards, and hopefully you can make the best from it. You just have to adapt as the rounds progress. Maybe you're going to get lessons that let you focus on particular areas. If you don't, you just have to be like, well, I'm going to maximize families. I'm going to hurt someone else. I want to just take all the rare treasures possible. Whatever it is, you have to adapt as the game progresses in order to hope for the best at the end, which may still not pan out. In our 2-player game with Steph, I was hate drafting lessons from her. She was doing it from me. We were just trying to hit each other and then break up families because you have a little more control. Again, in the draft, there's only going to be 4 cats on each side. It's not that many cats to mess around with, and you're not going to necessarily see all the colors because there's 17 colors of each cat in the bag. You'll see what comes out at random. And that's it. You just have to deal with it. And maybe your family doesn't grow. Maybe you'll have to draft a card that lets you pull extra cats from the bag and hope to come out that way, or focus on the Oshaks that you can adjust with the colors. There's all sorts of variations of things that you can do to try to recover from bad luck. Maybe you will, maybe not. If you don't want to deal with any of that, you can take bad luck in a different direction by trying the solo game. Maybe your luck will pan out better there. To talk about the solo game of the Isle of Cats, let's start by removing the board. You've seen the board before, you know how that works. With the solo game, you're going to have a set of 5 color cards, and you lay those out face down to begin with. You have a deck of lesson cards. You choose 3 of those, or if you want a more difficult game, you're going to turn up more from the advanced lessons. Start with 3, I would suggest. You also have a set of solo basket cards, because these cards are representing an opponent who is trying to take cats just like you were trying to take cats and rescue them. So you're going to start with the basket. At the start of a round, you're going to turn over the leftmost color card that is not yet revealed. You get 20 fish like normal. You're going to draft cards by taking a hand of 5, choosing 3 of those. Another hand of 5, choose 3 of those, and you get 1 last card. You pay for them like normal. You keep lessons. You put up public lessons like normal, although public lessons are only worth half as many points at the end of the game. And then you're going to put out 8 cats. You put them in a row, just like the Oshaks are in a row. We'll just pretend this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 4 there. There's 4 here. There's a rare treasure, so we'll put that aside. And there we go. We have 8 cats in a row. 4 cost 3 fish. 4 cost 5. I have some cards. You see purple here. This is what the solo opponent is going to find most valuable. These lessons are points that the solo player will score, and you have to try to prevent them from scoring. So the solo player gets 5 points per rat that you do not cover. So not only do you lose a point, effectively you lose 6 points. 5 points per lonely cat. If you've got a cat that is not next to any other cat of its color, not only don't you score for making cat families, the opponent scores for that. So you're trying to manage these lessons as well as possible in order to minimize that other player's score. You're going to choose a number of green rescue cards, and then you turn over the opponent's top basket here, and you get the speed as well as how many basket cards they reveal. In this case, it's only 1. If you had something like this with a 2 on it, then you would take 1 more card and put it away, and you know the solo player is going to turn over these 2 cards. With a speed of 2, so you adjust who is going to go first based on what your speed is and what their speed is. If the opponent goes first, we'll say they do in this case, they're going to look at cat number 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and they take that one. They also take Oshak's number 2, so this one. And now you spin fish, you spin a basket in order to take a cat. You reveal this. Switch 2 and 5. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The numbers change, so now this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Even though this was initially 8, when you remove it, it's gone. So switch 2 and 5, which changes the price of these. Hope you're planning well. Then take cat 1. Now we have 5 Oshaks. If there was something that dealt with rare treasure, then you would remove the treasures, because you keep the treasures in order, and those will be 1, 2, 3, 4 as well. You might have to remove common treasures. You're going to have things taken away from you that you might have wanted thanks to this opponent. So you're going to draft and as much as you want based on the baskets you have, the fish you have. Any cats at the end you just throw away. And why this matters is this opponent of yours is going to score 5 points for each purple cat that you have on your boat at the end of the game. So you do not want purple. There's only one available at this time. That's good. You can probably draft other things and profit from that. But you don't know what these other colors are going to be worth at the end of the game. At the start of the second round, you clear away all these basket cards. You turn over the next card. Oh, red is worth 4 points for the opponent. How much red did you draft in that first round? Well, you could have drafted 2 or 3 of them. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But as the game progresses, you are going to see what value each color has for your opponent, and you, of course, will try to specialize in that. But you are up, you are up to the mercy of the bag, depending on what colors come out. So in the third round, great. I just want blue and green. That's all I want to do. Maximize that. Hopefully, I've drafted lessons that relate to blue and green, and I can maximize my points from them. And at the end of the game, the opponent's going to score points based on the lessons here, based on the cats that you have here, and then you are going to score, and hopefully you have more points than they do. I played the solo game twice, and I completely blew it the first time I played. I did not understand that the solo lessons were for the opponent, that the opponent is going to score for that. I had the 5 points for Visible Rat. I'm like, well, that's great. I can just try to scoot around all the rats I want, and I lose 1 point, but then I gain 5 for the lesson, and then sort of the light dawned about halfway through as I was trying to figure out how everything would work together, and said, okay, this does not work. I will definitely lose. I will score so many points for the opponent. There is no possible way I can win. Tried again. It worked very differently, as you might expect, once you understand how things work. Light bulb. Yes, it's kind of magic that way. And it becomes a real different challenge trying to play against someone in that way. It's this different sort of automated puzzle game where you try to get things to work out exactly the right way, where you worry about drafting things in the right order. Although sometimes you just have to draft things in the right order to go here, and then you're going to build off that first cat you placed to reach out further and cover a treasure or fill a particular area. But you have to do it in that order, and then sometimes that second cat will be ripped away from you based on whatever order you get when the baskets flip up. Sometimes the treasures go, the Oshaks go, everything goes. If you get down to a certain number of cats and it said take cat number 6, but cat number 6 is not there, well, you just take whatever's at the end. And so you have that in mind as you are playing, and you have to account for your choices as you go through and make those choices in the game. So there's a very different experience between the solo game and the family game and the full game. They all involve fitting cats tightly together on your boat. You are never going to fill that boat. You are always going to lose points because, well, maybe not. Maybe you will fill the boat, but I have not seen it yet. You're going to lose something from that. And so you just have to adjust to that and plan, well, what are you going to get in compensation? What am I going to score in terms of lessons or families to try to overcome that deficit from not filling up the rooms completely? There you go. Quick overview of the Isle of Cats. I felt one of my cats at my shins while I was recording this, but they ran away. Camera shy, I guess. Can't stand the competition.